my latest video, I made this cake, and the main focus of it was the black frosting, but some of you asked about the marshmallow cream filling in between the cake layers. Now, I used my favorite Swiss meringue recipe, but that ended up being a mistake because as the day wore on, the filling leaked out and the cake eventually collapsed. Me being me, I wanted to figure out what went wrong, and so now I have a super stable homemade marshmallow fluff recipe that you can use in between your cake layers, and it will not ooze out.
Okay, just so you know what I'm going for, I'm trying to make a marshmallow cream filling or homemade marshmallow fluff that's stable enough to hold up cake layers. You may have seen this stuff, and you really could use it if you wanted, but I'm gonna show you how to make this from scratch. So check out the texture. This is called a cream because more or less it's a spreadable consistency. This is different than a marshmallow, which has more elasticity and structure, and it's really a confection that's made to stand on its own. Now, there are generally a few ways to make marshmallows. One uses a super thick corn syrup-based sugar syrup. There's the other way that uses egg whites. And the reason you'd want to use egg whites is because they have this incredible ability to build a foam based on their proteins within. So you can use basically any meringue recipe. And I did a bunch of stability tests to figure out what the best meringue was. So I made a bunch of meringues, then put them between two acrylic discs and put weights on them and watched them. I tested Swiss versus Italian, different cooking temperatures of the eggs using pasteurized egg whites. I have a lot of data that I'll have to show you in another video, so you just let me know if you all are interested in it, but it's really more of a meringue-centric topic for a video. Probably applies to a lot of desserts, including marshmallows like this, but also like macarons and buttercreams. Anyways, what I found was that the meringue by itself, so just the egg whites and sugar, cream and tartar, that recipe is not stable enough to hold up heavy cake layers, particularly the cakes that I make. So you have to add reinforcements or stabilizers, of which there are many, but gelatin was the most reliable in my tests. The key is to add enough gelatin such that it gives structure, but not so much that it makes the filling gummy. So this recipe is for a Swiss meringue that is stabilized with gelatin that makes a homemade marshmallow fluff. For this recipe, you're gonna need cold water, powdered gelatin, fresh egg whites, white granulated sugar, cream of tartar, vanilla, and salt. First, take that cold water and place it in a small bowl, preferably one that is wide, as it will allow you to sprinkle the gelatin all over the surface more easily. The water does have to be cold because gelatin softens too much in warm water, which would set up and trap unhydrated gelatin inside these little clumps. Notice how I'm using powdered gelatin. This is the Knox brand that's commonly available in the United States. Different gelatin types have varying strengths or bloom numbers. You have to do a little bit of math to convert between brands, so just keep that in mind. So go ahead and set that aside. Now, to a large heat-proof mixing bowl, stir together fresh egg whites, sugar, and cream of tartar with a spatula. Place this atop a double boiler that has a good amount of fog rising. Scrape the bowl periodically and cook the whites until it reaches 165 Fahrenheit. Once it reaches that temperature, remove it from the heat. Now take your little bowl of gelatin. It should be completely firm like this. I'm going to microwave this for about 7 seconds, but you're gonna have to wash this in your microwave. What we want is for it to turn back into liquid. You don't want to boil the mixture because that's going to prohibit the gelling properties of the gelatin. Just gently heat it. It really only needs to be around 85 to 90 degrees to melt, so it's not very high. When the gelatin is liquid like this, go ahead and scrape it all into your bowl of egg whites. Now mix this on high speed for 10 minutes with the whisk attachment. And it took about 5 minutes on my stand mixer to really increase in volume, after which the meringue started to get more glossy and dense. Your finished marshmallow fluff should look like this. And what happened is that I ended up having to stop filming that day because I had something come up with my kids' schedules. So I wrapped up the marshmallow fluff until the next morning. But check this out. You can use marshmallow fluff right after making it and it'll set, or you can use it like I'm going to show you the next day or whenever. But when you try to spread it when it's set, it looks all lumpy like this. It's not very easy to spread, and this is how it's supposed to look. So how do I get it back to that nice creamy spreadable state? Gelatin is biochemically a really amazing ingredient, and that it's called thermo-reversible. What that means is that I can heat it again and cool it and it'll firm up again. And I can do this over and over again so long as I don't raise the temperature too much and I don't kill the proteins. Remember how I said that you're not supposed to boil it? So you want to stay around like 80 to 100 Fahrenheit. Gelatin is super fascinating. It sets up at cold temperatures. That's a really unique property. And on top of that, it melts at around body temperature, which is why it works so well for one of my favorite foods, which is soup dumplings. So here I'm gonna melt this marshmallow fluff over a water bath just until it's completely melted. Then I'm gonna put it back on my stand mixer and whip it up again. And you're gonna see that it's gonna go for 10 minutes again. And after that, it's gonna be soft and fluffy and ready to use. Now, once it's in this spreadable state, the thing is that you wanna get this on the cake within the next 15 or so minutes before it sets. So if you plan on doing this, make sure you have everything ready. You have your cake sliced, your frosting ready, and everything set out and ready to use. So I went ahead and started my cake, which brings me to another important point. I didn't do this on my last cake, and it was probably one of the main reasons why everything leaked out. You typically want that extra set of reinforced frosting when you have a looser filling, like lemon curd or jams, or like here with marshmallow fluff. So I'm going to use my black frosting to make a circle around the outer perimeter of each cake, then fill in with the homemade fluff. I did this for the second filling, and then I put this cake in the freezer for 30 minutes to allow the frosting and marshmallow filling to set before attempting the crumb coat. And once you have the crumb coat on, you're going to want to let this set in the refrigerator for at least 4 to 6 hours. That crumb coat is going to prevent the cake from drying out, and the cold is going to set the frosting as well as the gelatin inside. You can do this overnight even better. Then you can do your final coat of frosting and any piping that you want. And here's the final cake, a nice marshmallow filling that won't ooze out. I did err on the side of making this more creamy rather than more marshmallowy, elastic, and firm, but I will add some notes in my recipe if you need something a little bit more firmer. And you'll also notice that this is a thinner layer of marshmallow cream than my last cake, which is a little bit easier to manage, particularly if you don't want to use a lot of gelatin. If you do use more gelatin, you can definitely go thicker.